Hi, my name is Marnie Ward. I'm one of the jurors of this show. It's one of our juried exhibitions for the Federation of Canadian Artists. We're having our 70th anniversary from the founding of the FCA, which was done in Ontario 70 years ago, and then spread west. So the first BC branch was a couple of years after that, and our first president of the BC branch was Lauren Harris, and Emily Carr was one of our founding members for our BC. They called it a BC branch then. Right now, it sort of died out in the east, but it's continued in the west. So we have 4 chapters on Vancouver Island. The Victoria chapter is the largest with about 150 members, and there's a chapter in Nanaimo and a chapter in Parksville, and a chapter in Comox Valley. And there are chapters around BC and Alberta, and there are members all across Canada. So our local chapter, we have 2 shows a year, one in the spring and one in the fall, and we have kind of a hierarchy in the FCA. So there are signature members, senior signature members, and associate signature members, and a group of 3 of these will jury every show. So we had about 100 paintings brought into this show for jurying, and we juried it down to the 55 or so that you see in this show today. So we have meetings once a month, we offer workshops, and it's a kind of mentorship for newer emerging artists. They get to work with more senior artists. We have critiques meetings where Catherine Moffat just gave a critique for us last month, and everybody could bring 1 or 2 paintings, and she would discuss them in front of everybody. So you pick up, all sorts of tips about how to improve this and what its weaknesses are. Sometimes it's easier to hear those comments with somebody else's painting than it is with your own, and that's why we do it as a group. We have workshops, weekend workshops or 3-day workshops that people can come to if they want to immerse themselves in a particular artist. So it's basically for education of the public and education of our own members, a kind of mentorship program. So in that sense, it's a little more professional organization to belong to than the average, art group. There's a lot of art groups, but this one is, you have to be juried into active status even to apply for shows like this. And we do have a gallery on Granville Island, which is our headquarters for Canada right now, called Federation Gallery. And anyone that's an active member can submit paintings to the various shows that are on at Federation Gallery. About every 3 weeks they'll have a different show there. So sometimes those shows are thematic. They might be just landscapes, or they might be a certain medium, and there's 1 show a year that's just for signature members. But they have a couple of open shows as well that people can apply to that don't even belong to the FCA, open international shows. And we get new members that way sometimes too. And we had 1 show a few years ago in Nanaimo for all 4 of the island chapters. We got together and put a show at the Nanaimo Art Gallery. So we jury for each other's chapters sometimes too. I've been up to jury shows in Nanaimo, and that way we get a little bit of fresh blood and a fresh eye. So we don't have the same people jurying all the time. And this is the first time we've been in Morris Gallery, and it's really a lovely setting for a show like this. It's very well lit, and the thing is we have a big diversity of paintings here, because some artists have 2 paintings. Most artists probably just have 1, so there's probably 35 or 40 artists. All mediums, all styles, as you can see, different sizes and different prices, because some of our more experienced artists are professionals and their paintings are expensive, but there's also new artists who you can get some really good paintings for very reasonable prices here, because they're just beginning their career and their prices haven't gone up yet, and you know that they've been juried into the show. This painting, I think we gave it an award because it's such an unusual combination of the Canadian flag and then the sleeping lady, and it just kind of worked. It's big and bold, and you can see the form of the figure underneath the flag there. So sometimes something gets an award partly because it's an original idea, but the composition and everything have to also work for it to be given an award. So this is Sandy Terry's painting. Sandy's a relatively new artist, but she's doing really well. And this was just lovely, that the texture, you can really feel the velvety texture of the flower, and it's a nice composition. It was just a very striking image, and we all felt it. It has a power about it. So that's what you look for with an award-winning painting, something that has power and integrity. This is Philippa Hudson, and she actually had two beautiful paintings in this show. She does really lovely work. It's another acrylic painting. We just love the color of that red and the simplicity of the design and how it stood out against those lovely soft mauves in the background. Beautiful composition and lovely values that Philippa has, with the really strong darks underneath, and then the subtle color and the rather bold color of the flowers. So this is by Lisa Riel. It's also acrylic. It's an honorable mention painting. It's very bold, and it has a lot of integrity. Lisa is a surfer and spends a lot of time on the West Coast, so she takes photographs when she's there and then turns them into these beautiful paintings. They're very strong, and you can feel Lisa's voice in all of her paintings. She has a certain perspective that comes out. And this one that she called A Place of Wisdom, we all just really liked. So this is a mandala by Christy Bridgman, and it's done in watercolor, but it also has some ink and some metallic resist, so it shines in certain lights. You can see little silver dots around the edges. It's called Meditation in Blue and Gold, and it's very delicate. It reminds me kind of snowflakes. Christy does a lot of these mandalas. She has a whole series of them. She's created her own kind of mandalas. They don't follow the strict, Tibetan structure of mandalas. She's very into the environment, and nature always plays an important role. She'll take a theme of a flower or an insect or an animal and bring it out in her paintings. So this is one of her really more peaceful mandalas. So this is a lovely little watercolor by Sandhu Singh. Sandhu has a very loose, free, wet kind of style. He works quite quickly. He uses a lot of small figures that they're very impressionistic. They're just done very quickly, but they really define the way the person is standing. They really give you a feeling of people in the background, and there's a lovely mood that he creates with the soft background and the often busy parts, and always really beautifully composed. He's really I don't think Sandhu's been painting all that long, but he's very good, and he's consistently winning awards. So this is one of the juror paintings. There's 3 jurors. Mary Conley this is, I think, her first show that she's juried for us. It's a beautiful painting. It was chosen for our invitation piece, and it's in our ad, and those eyes, they just grab you from the newspaper or whatever, and you just have you transfixed on them. But this is very, very well painted. You can see the texture of the feathers just show up really beautifully, the way the background is light in the corner and gradually darkens out. The way the eyes, the yellow eyes and that yellow around the beak, they're the only really strong yellow in the painting. They just have you transfixed. I mean, you can't have any choice but to stare back at that red-tailed hawk. So it was a very good choice for our invitation and our poster for this particular show. So this is my painting. I just got my SFCA status this spring after being an AFCA for about 10 years, so I was very pleased about that. I do watercolors, mainly florals, although I've recently done a series of fall leaves, and I like to just try and capture what I feel is the spirit of the flower. So I often do a close-up of one individual flower, but with daisies I feel that they're a kind of a group flower. They have a kind of a backyard happy familiarity to them, so I tried to paint them that way. These are actually in a barrel, and there were these other little tiny red flowers, and I kind of like that. They made it a little more homey. So I do try and capture the light coming through, either behind or shining on a particular daisy, creating a lot of interesting shadows. So you can see that in the central daisy. There's some lovely sort of very pale pink and yellow and blue, like a very pale rainbow on the white of the daisies. So for me, light is really, really important, and I try to choose photographs that give me a really good light, and then make sure that the other elements in the painting all support the main flower or the main thing that I'm focusing on. So the other flowers have a supporting role. And in a case like this, they're almost like musical notes, or if you get tree trunks in a painting like that, it's like the spaces are very important as well as the actual daisies, so that each daisy is almost like a musical note, and you could probably play a tune on the piano, but they have that kind of feeling. That's what I was aiming for anyway. So this final juror painting is by Clement Kwan, who is another senior signature member. Clement's becoming very well known in Victoria. He's in the Masters category in the big Sydney Fine Art Show, which will be up next month. And he does mainly figures. He often does small ones, but he does these amazing large paintings like this as well. And he's very, very good at focusing in on a small group of figures, and then the background figures are just much less defined, and they kind of float into the background. He's very good at getting that sense of perspective and at pushing the background figures into less prominence by having them less detailed, less contrast, softer edges. And then that one blue note, the lady in blue with the red flower, because the other ladies are all in yellow, of course the eye goes right to her with that contrast in colors. So he really is a master of the figure, and just does glorious work, and we're very happy to have one of his large paintings in this show.
If you leave it too long, it's fresh and there's cracks. Here we are going to Australia, our friend neighbors, we have a garden.
I think Wendy and we're being told